So it's not really a department, but it's a division of interdisciplinary research that DH is part of. We have launched an MSc in Digital Humanities last year and a PhD program 2 years back. And we did an extensive curriculum development workshop last year and launched the program. So, and we have currently 3 or 4 PhD students in DH and about 20 postgraduate students in the MSc program. Yeah. So that is a little background. Okay. Okay. I'm start question. Okay, sir. Now we are going to start the program. Okay. নমস্কাৰ সকলোলৈকে প্ৰীতি আৰু শুভেচ্ছা জ্ঞাপন কৰি মই তেজপুৰ বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ৰ অসমীয়া বিভাগৰ তৰফৰ পৰা আজি এই বক্তৃতা অনুষ্ঠানলৈ সকলোকে আদৰণি জনাইছো I am extremely happy to inform you all that Department of Assamese TEZPUR University has been conducting an online lecture series. Today is our 4th lecture. The central attraction of today's program is Dr. Mayurakshi from IIT Jodhpur. She will deliver her lecture on importance of digital humanities. And again, I welcome all of you to this program. And here pisote মই সকলোকে পুনৰবাৰ আদৰণি জনাই আজিৰ কাৰ্যক্ৰমণিকা আগবঢ়াই নিবৰ বাবে জুৰি দত্ত বাইদেউ অনুৰোধ জনাইছো
নমস্কাৰ সকলোকে আজিৰ এই বক্তৃতা অনুষ্ঠানলৈ মই আদৰণি জনাইছো A very good afternoon to all of you present here. We are happy to share with you that Department of Assamese has been organizing a special lecture series since the beginning of the present academic session. And today is the 4th lecture in the series. And the lecture will be delivered by Dr. Mayurakshi Chaudhuri, an eminent academician. And it is my proud privilege to introduce the speaker of today's lecture. Dr. Mayurakshi Chaudhuri is Assistant Professor of Sociology at the Indian Institute of Technology, Jodhpur, and Coordinator of Digital Humanities at IIT Jodhpur. With BSc in Geography from University of Calcutta and MA in Regional Planning from University of Sheffield, she earned her integrated MA and PhD degrees in Comparative Sociology and Global Sociocultural Studies from Florida International University. Her research areas include gender studies, migration and mobilities, historical sociology, technology and society, and digital cultures. Dr. Chaudhuri is the recipient of international and national fellowship, including a German Academic Exchange Service Fellowship and the Government of India National Merit Scholarship. She has completed an online teaching project for the course Gender and Society as part of the Ministry of Human Resource Development's Direct to Home initiative. Her recent research projects focus on emerging areas of technology and mobility, digital healthcare, and images in digital cultures. An interdisciplinary scholar with academic training in sociology, cultural anthropology, and geography, she enjoys advising undergraduate, postgraduate, and doctoral projects that are located at the intersections of society, culture, and technology. Ma'am, we are happy to have you amongst us. Without much delay, I would like to request Dr. Chaudhuri to deliver her talk.
Thank you very much for the generous introduction and for inviting me for today's talk. It is my honor, it is my pleasure to be part of this program, this event. I will share I have a short presentation that I will make, and after that we can have some question-answer discussion based on that. So let me share my screen. Is my screen visible to all?
Yes. Yeah, it is easy.
Okay. All right. Thank you again. My name is Mayurakshi Chaudhuri. I am an assistant professor of sociology at IIT Jodhpur, where I also coordinate the digital humanities platform as part of the division of interdisciplinary research in the institute. As you have graciously mentioned, my background is in sociology. My areas of research are gender, migration, mobility studies, historical sociology, and I come to digital humanities with that training. So, and today I'm here to talk about the importance of digital humanities as has been requested. So what I will be talking about today is briefly talking about digital humanities as a discipline, its background, its brief introduction to that, which I'm sure many of us here on topics that we are on the same page. I will talk about the importance of digital humanities in research areas, where I will talk about my areas of interest in DH in terms of research, and I will walk you through some of the application areas of DH in that regard. And the third part of my talk would talk about the importance of DH in pedagogy. And here I will briefly walk you through the MSc and the PhD programs in digital humanities at IIT Jodhpur. And I'm very happy to share that the master's program of DH here at IIT Jodhpur is possibly the first of its kind in the country. So we are really happy to share that, and we are open for feedback, for any sort of advice on our curriculums on DH. So I'm sure, as scholars of humanities, as scholars of social sciences, we agree that these disciplines are founded on the ideas of reason, culture, and society. And this is important for us to acknowledge, because later on in my talk, I will talk about how the system of inquiry in digital humanities has progressed. And so it's important for us to be on the same page, that we accept that they are founded on ideas of reason, culture, and society. But historically, and not surprisingly, we see that there has been an inherited separation between humanities and technology. One will not speak the language of the other. One should not speak the language of the other, and that has been kind of an assumption, a kind of an inherited separation between the humanities and technology. To the extent that I'm sure some of you are familiar with C.P. Snow's work on the two cultures and the scientific revolution, where Snow, it's based on his Reed lecture, and C.P. Snow talks about this breach, that the intellectual life of the whole Western society is increasingly being split into two polar groups. On one hand are the literary intellectuals, and on the other hand are the natural scientists, and as the most representative, the physical scientists. Between the two, a gulf of incomprehension. So this was as back as 1959, if I may recall correctly, that this gulf of incomprehension that humanities and technology will not meet was kind of becoming very, prominent, and it was a source of discomfort for many scholars in the field. And over time, we see as DH has evolved, it has evolved as a composite of approaches rather than an amalgamation, rather than a collection of different approaches. So the two are conceptually, very different. So one is an addendum. You just collect a bunch of approaches to do some research and produce it. That's one thing. The other is to speak the language of a composite of research of approaches. That you bring these approaches in conversation with each other, and you melt them. A melting pot, and whatever is the product out of that melting, becomes that composite approach, and that is really what DH is all about. So some of the works of DH that we see are in the development of technology applications in humanities, in preserving, reconstructing, transmitting, and interpreting human record historically and contemporaneously. So before talking about the importance of digital humanities, it's wise to look at this question that scholars have been asking, over and over again: is DH a discipline? So, does it is it an emerging discipline? Is it a discipline at all? So, if you are familiar with the history of DH, you will see that it started with something called humanities computing. It was around 1949, 1950s, and that was that was what was understood to be literary computing, humanist informatics, and that time computers were still a curiosity. Computers were not yet every household necessity item. So we were talking about that age when computers were still yet to become a necessity, and they were still a curiosity. Now, from humanities computing, we have seen a journey towards what we now understand to be digital humanities since the early 2000s, and much of that comes from a background understanding of how we analyze, make meaning of text as data. Now, in humanities, a lot, in social sciences also a lot. Text that is produced is the source of data, and that is unstructured data I'm talking about. So how do you obtain that unstructured data? How do you analyze unstructured data, and how do you make meaning of unstructured data is what digital humanities started its journey with. And of course, we see some of the earliest interventions in literary studies, and more recently, we also see the questions of how all of that is translated into understanding of social good. So, you have text as data, or you have an image as a data, and you analyze, you infer, but how does all of that also translate to be of social benefit, translate to be of social good? So this is a journey of DH globally, as we see how DH has been imagined over the years, over the decades, since humanities computing since the 1930s to the 2000s, where we started to use digital humanities as a moniker. So we see the text, this history, this organized history starts with understanding text as data, going to images, digitization, to sound, to object, to number, to multimedia, and the age that we are currently living in, AI or artificial intelligence, augmented reality, and virtual reality. And now, if we try to plug in some of the examples of what happened in this journey, what happened, when text transitioned to images, to sound, to objects, etc. We see, of course, you are all familiar with, Thomas Bussa's work of, Index Domesticus, or closer to home, Jodhpur University's work on Project Vichitra, which is the online Tagore Mayurakshi that they have, they have digitized Tagore's works, and it's beautifully laid out on their website, Project Vijitra. So that's an example of using text as data. You bring in this text to make meaning, to infer something out of that text. Now from there, we transition to understanding extending this understanding to images, to digitize maps and manuscripts, and then to sound reproduction, music engineering, musical databases, machine classification, statistical programs, and of course, the age of now, that is video speech generation that we see now. So this has been kind of a journey that digital humanities has traveled over time and through space. So coming to the question of why is digital humanities important? Let me pause for maybe a minute or two and ask, some of the participants who I assume are PG students, what do you think? Why is digital humanities important? What can you get out of it? If I may ask some of the students. Not my students, I see some of you are online, but from TEZPUR University. Any volunteers? Okay, no problem. So let's investigate why is digital humanities important. So we see that this is a simple graph to just exemplify this why. This graph you see on the horizontal axis, you have an increase in the number of people, and on the vertical axis you have an increase in the number of machines. Sorry. So in this, in this graph, when you plot, say, conventional computation or social networks, this is with respect to either people or machines. And where we see digital scholarship, is in a position where you have more people and more machines. So this is the age that we are living in now, and this is kind of a point of no return where you cannot but talk about digital scholarship. So we are still we're digitizing texts. But we are also talking about applications of AI, applications of machine learning, and automating sort of these understandings. So this is where we position ourselves as scholarly community of the DH now. That with an increase in the number of machines and increasing number of people, this is the function that we are getting. That all you get is a type of digital scholarship. Now, my engagements with digital humanities, and probably this will answer some of the questions on why digital humanities is important, has been around these three areas. So my work, revolves around understanding technology, understanding identities, understanding how these identities are digitally embodied. I also engage in my work to understand how place and space are constructed, recreated, negotiated in a digital ambience, in a digital environment. And my third engagement with digital humanities is in terms of data visualization. So I work with a lot of qualitative text and image data, and I have been doing this for quite some time, is how to translate qualitative data into effective visualization using various software, and also translate qualitative data into quantitative data to give some more meaning to that data. So these are some of the three areas that I have been engaged with in my work on digital humanities. Just to walk you through what I mean by technology, identity, digital embodiment, space, place. I'll just walk you through quickly through that. Is I'm sure as humanities and students, you are familiar with the history of embodiment that comes from philosophy. That the idea of humans, that we are living, thinking, feeling beings that inhabit the interact with the physical world, is the sense of being in this world. That comes from the classical philosophical understanding, which later on has been refined and defined alternatively by other disciplines such as sociology, anthropology, and more recently, like computer scientists, that there are specific roles of language, specific roles of communication that gives rise to meanings in our lifestyle. And that gives, that is what is called the science of experience, how we experience our environment, how we experience the world, how we experience ourselves in this world, translates all of that into understanding embodiment. And now, recently, you would see a lot of research that is happening on how to understand the body in digital spaces. Like, for example, if you are aware, all the IITs are doing their convocations online, and they're engaging in creating avatars, 3D avatars, engaging in AR and VR experiences. So, because the students cannot be here in person, their avatars are created. So they walk on the stage and they receive the medal of the degree certificate from the director or the dean. And the experience is there without the actual person being there. So how do you understand the body in a digital space? This is an example just to show what I have been talking about all this time. You see a set of 6 images in this diagram, and it is talking about the requirement, the importance of having a body, an embodiment of a digital assistance. So what is happening is the instructor or the creator is creating some sort of a function so that a lamp can be turned on by a digital assistant. In the first 2 set of images, as you can see, there is no body of the digital assistant, but there is an exchange of command and function that, you please turn on the lamp, and then the lamp is turned on. In the second one, you see that an avatar is created, the digital assistant is embodied, and when giving the command of turning on the lamp, the avatar is standing and using a tablet to turn on the lamp. And in the third one, this technology progresses one step more, where you see this avatar is now actually walking to the lamp after getting the command and turning on the lamp. So this is an example to show that, the question now is, why then do we need an embodiment of a digital assistant? Why was it not enough to stop at the first set of diagram, the first set of functions that the creator instructor says that you turn on the lamp, and then the function is met, the function is done. Why do we even need to bring in an avatar? Why do we even need to embody the visual, the digital assistant, in performing this function? So that is one important question for us to consider. The second area of digital embodiment that I'm currently working on has to do with the evolution of digital healthcare globally and locally. So here I am actually looking at digital embodiment, or how human bodies are perceived, acted upon in digitally aided environments in rural Rajasthan. So I'm looking at people's usage of digital healthcare apps, their behavior towards these apps, and particularly looking at digital reproductive healthcare. And here I use an intersectionality model where I look at, the intersections of gender, caste, class, age, employment, marriage, etc. So, and here in the first inset diagram, you can see that we are living in an age of digital healthcare, and of course, with COVID happening, this is all but so true. So true that there's this increasing emphasis on how we understand embodiment or digital embodiment through this sort of healthcare apps. So the other part of this research that coincides with digital humanities or the principles of digital humanities is the idea of data visualization. As you can see, many of you may be familiar with the principles of ground theory, where data is generated and analyzed through open coding, qualitative coding, pattern recognition, etc. And I typically use software called MaxQDA, where you can actually generate, you can actually analyze, say for example, pages and pages of interview transcripts. How do you analyze interview transcripts? So the diagram that you see in the background, the collection of dots of different colors, is actually an analysis of paragraphs in a text. So every time the color changes, probably there's a change in paragraph, or there is a change in the theme in the text. So all the blue codes, the interviewee was talking about one thing, or the green codes, they were talking about another thing. So you can actually color code, the themes that come up in an interview. And of course, you can generate something called a code relation browser, where you actually can see the relationship between the coded segments of a text, and you can actually generate some sort of hypothesis or inference. For example, you can you see just by the sheer size of the dots in this diagram, whether it's red or blue, you can actually say which is significant and which is not. So this is one part of data visualization that actually significantly relates to ideas of digital humanities that I'm currently working on. The second area that I look at is this understanding of place and space. As you know, that space and place are both very geographical concepts, but also very sociological. So, and even more so now that we have gone digital, how do we understand these digital spaces as being constructed? Because we know the space is constructed, produced. Place is socially constructed. So how do we go to a digital environment and make meaning of that place? For example, this is I was talking to my students the other day about this. If you're given two sorts of images like this, the first one on the top right corner of the screen that you see, they are both generated, using some sort of, computer generated, computer software. The top right is generated by using a 3D Studio Max, and it uses a lot of geometric shapes, as you can see, what they understand to be the Cartesian geometry shapes, usually at right angles or, discrete lines. You see that a place is produced by the accumulation of certain shapes, certain items, as you can see in this picture. But then that all about the picture? What sort of space is created? What can you tell about the space? Is it in a digital environment, just by looking at this picture? And in comparison, if you look at this, the oil painting, which is again, talking about, when you inset bodies in space, this painting has architectural forms, human forms, other forms of space, as you can see. So, how do we actually talk about these bodies that are now part of digital environments. How do we talk about cyborgs? How do we talk about robots? How do we talk about avatars? So if you recall, a few years ago in UAE, I think robot Sophia, if I recall the name correctly, was created like a cyborg. It was a human machine amalgamation, not a human. It was a cyborg, and Sophia was a robot that slowly started to complicate social understanding in the UAE to the extent that Sophia started to want citizenship and a family. So when a machine crosses these lines of and enters into the human world, comes out of the digital environment and enters into a social environment, how do you blend the two? It is not that easy to understand, but this is how complicated a world that we all live in. I'm not going to go into this discussion of conceptualizing space in details, but just to give you a background of, how do we understand, digital space in terms of augmented reality, virtual reality, is to look at these various forms of spaces first. We know about the history of cartography, where we used to draw maps using rotring pens, draw contours. If you have a background in geography, you would know. To transitioning to software-based map making, and now in GIS and GPS, you can create maps just by the click of a button. You don't have to sit for hours and draw maps like that. But the point here is that map, whether it's hand drawn or whether it's GIS or GPS aided, is still talking about some sort of place, some sort of space, and understanding these spaces along a scale, whether it's starting from the intimate to the regional, local, national, transnational, international. As you scale up, the nature of that space changes, so the use of that space also changes, and of course, images give us another form of space to talk about that. Paintings, photographs, portraits, postcards, for example, offer us a lot of space in this regard. So that's kind of a background of what I mean by the importance of DH. Particularly augmented reality, virtual reality in terms of space and place. The third area that I engage with in terms of DH research is, as I explained before, is on data visualization using software. I use MaxQDA, but there are plenty of other software like NVivo, Atlas TI, and many others. Now there is one called Delve. What they help you to do is they help you to structure unstructured data. So text, as I said, is a classic example. Interviews, classic example of unstructured data. So how do you tame that data? How do you domesticate that data is what this software helps you to do. But mind you, this software will do only what you instruct them to do. So as long as you understand what you want to do with your data, only that function will be performed by the software. The software will not do anything extra that it will not ask the software to do. So for example, in the first diagram that you see here, this is a document portrait that I explained a couple slides back, that with each color, you can possibly see that the theme in the script changed. And from just by viewing this box, box, you can see that probably the theme that was yellow coded was more significant than the one that was coded with dark blue. So this is just, visually telling, the nature of significance in the data. The semantic network relation, the relation graph, it's one of those relation graphs that MathStudio offers, this one actually shows the relationship between the various codes of the interviews. It just establishes some sort of a network between the codes, the interrelationship between the codes in the data. And the code relation browser, again a visual tool that shows the relationship between the various codes in that data. And of course, by the size of these squares, you can actually say, talk about the significance or not significant in that data. So these are, the three of the areas that I work with in digital humanities, and my sociological understanding is brought directly here in conversation with digital humanities, and I think these are, pertinent questions that digital humanities are asking. Now, with that, I hope I'm doing good with time. I will go to the last part of my talk, where I will talk about the importance of digital humanities in pedagogy, in teaching and learning. So this question that where is the pedagogy was raised as back as to 2012 by Breyer, asking, with the emergence of the understanding of DH as early as 2001, a decade had passed until 2010, 11, where no one was really talking about how to teach DH, how to train the next generation, telling them what DH is, telling them how to do DH, telling them what it entails. So this question started from there in 2012, and over time we see across the globe, not much in South Asia, but in the US, in Europe, we see there has been a slew of academic programs that started with, talking about digital humanities. And many of these programs, started from the humanities departments. But what has happened over the years is, these academic programs kind of became so research intensive that their curriculums sort of look very different. So if you do a little research of this journey of the evolution of pedagogy of the age in the world, this is a clear trend that you will see. In India, this conversation is only starting, and in fact, DH as a discipline, the acceptance of DH as a discipline is only very recent in India, and the problem, if I may call it a problem, has been that in conventional understanding education in India, we kind of are so engrossed in this breach between humanities and technology, something that I started this presentation with, that it takes a lot of effort to bring the two into conversation. So at Jodhpur, we have been able to sort of, start this conversation, and our imagination of digital humanities has been somewhat what you see on the screen right now. That we see that yes, in DH, the major questions, the major inquiry are coming from society at large, from culture, from questions of identity, questions of inequality. but it also rests on two other pillars. One is research tools and methods, under which we talk about, these areas of research methods, archiving, data visualization, as I talked about briefly, multimedia, image-based mind mapping, infographics, and recreation like AR, VR. And the third pillar that I strongly believe that nothing about DH can be done without collaboration. So that is the third pillar that we invest in, and not just people to people, expert to expert, expert to students sort of interaction, but also interaction between web and the people. And I'm sure you all know that the web also has gone through this journey, starting from web 1.0 to 2.0 to 3.0, starting from the static web where, you have a website and all you can see on the website is some information and that's all. You could not interact with the web. But later on in Web 2.0, you have the interactive web that, you can not only see the information, but you can also interact. You can also author. You can also, play with that information that you see on the screen. So that journey has also informed to a large extent to how we understand, how we imagine digital humanities here. Our faculty members in the current DH platform come from a variety of disciplinary training and background, starting from literature to sociology to film studies, cultural studies, management, computer science, engineering, and mathematics. So, we are about 12 or 13 of us currently in this platform working on various DH projects and teaching various DH courses. And on that note of teaching, let me conclude my talk talking briefly, very, very briefly about the DH curriculum at IIT Jodhpur. We have an MSc and a PhD program where the principles of these two programs are to train the students in understanding the definitions of digital humanities, considering the importance of DH beyond academic fields. So, in areas like the GLAM sector, galleries, libraries, archives, museums, and all of that now increasingly going digital, online, the importance of digital humanities, I cannot overemphasize that, enough. So, the importance of digital humanities, beyond the academic field is increasingly, exponentially growing. And of course, en route, we train the students towards this critical questioning, towards this questioning of the artificial separation between humanities and technology. That is it really different from one another, or is it a human-induced sort of separation? Our doctoral degree has some focus areas, but these are not limited to these areas. So these are some of the primary areas that students currently do research on. Excuse me. So they look at digital cultures, they look at digital heritage, digital economy, multimodal data analysis, and digital epistemologies. And our master's degree, the MSc degree, has been tailor-made to actually fit the purpose of the job market when the students graduate, by training them for employment and the job market. So as you can see, that the students do 12 core courses, 18 elective courses, and they come from a variety of backgrounds. And this is one of the hallmarks of the program, is that the students come from backgrounds in humanities and social sciences and even basic sciences. So I think I got a message. Sorry. Oh, okay. I thought somebody sent me a message. Yes. So, so we have students from backgrounds in humanities, in social science, in basic science, mathematics, physics. It's really a very interesting collection of students that we have in the MSc program. Some of the courses that we offer in DH, the courses are, categorized under foundational, methodological, and conceptual. Under foundational, we have, courses such as, introducing students to digital humanities, archiving databases, foundations in IPR, principles of digital economics, and data structures, algorithms. In methods, we have an entire course dedicated to DH students, methods and methodologies. Also, they take a course on programming techniques, machine learning for DH, which is actually tailor-made for the students of DH, social media application development, and conceptual. They do a course called Place Identity in the Digital Age. They do a seminar in DH, they do a course on civilizations, cultures, and technologies, and they get training in language and literary studies. Apart from that, there is a host of elective courses that we offer to the students, which they credit as advanced stage, whether it's a PhD or an MSc student of DH. And these elective courses are taught by faculty members from across departments, across disciplines. I'm happy to talk about these courses, later on if you wish. So this is my last slide, where I'm going to talk about some of the important objectives of digital humanities, and why it increasingly is becoming important for us to have this conversation, start this conversation at least, is for one, that we need to build a digital repository of information that we have to store, we have to maintain this sort of information for future researchers, future generations, and data, analyzing that sort of data, forming databases is increasingly becoming important. The second importance in this regard is to build some sort of computational tools to understand cultural changes. So this is what many of the DH projects are actually doing. That they understand text as a digitally mediated object. They contextualize the digital object and also ask questions in terms of material aspects. So how do we build these sort of tools to understand the changes that are happening in our society? And of course, digital embodiment, something that I talked about in my talk, is how do we understand the relationship between the human and the digital? Not just the interaction, but also what gets produced, out of that interaction is socially pertinent, is socially important. So how human bodies, human subjects are perceived and acted upon in digitally enhanced environments. So these are some of the important objectives for a DH scholar to consider, to take into account, and to work on. And in the closing, to current and future generations of DH scholars, particularly in India, my thoughts would be that we need to take a look at how the disciplinary orientations are, in India, how the boundaries around these disciplines have been constructed, and can we redefine these boundaries? Can we make new meaning out of these disciplines just by talking to each other, just by imagining the discipline in better way. Of course, collaboration is another thing that becomes increasingly important for digital humanities projects. And of course, how can we broaden the academic discourse on DH? How can we, have an expanded understanding and conversation of DH in the academic discourse? So I think I am almost it's time. And with that, I would like to conclude my lecture. Thank you very much. And I would welcome questions, discussions from the audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for such an illuminating lecture. You have touched upon very important issues related to digital humanities, which is a very new concept, new things for many of us. And you have elaborated the importance of digital humanities. And I believe along with me, our student friends, my colleagues, and all the audience present here are definitely immensely benefited by your talk. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we have time for a couple of questions. I'd like to request our students and my colleagues to ask their questions if we have any questions.
Hi, ma'am.
Hello. Hi.
Yeah, this is Divya, and I'm a newly joined PhD scholar at TEZPUR. So my question is, can we expect, like, I'm a student of social sciences, so can we expect a similar kind of a background for social sciences as well, like digital social sciences, or do digital humanities cover even the topics that comes under social sciences? Because I would like to do something on it, and the topics I always look at is like using the tools of digital humanities, how can I do something good for our field of study? So that's why this question comes.
Thank you, Divya. That's a very important question, and I come across this question quite often. I am a sociologist to start with, and digital humanities as an umbrella term, it includes all humanities and social science disciplines, and many of the movements, quote unquote, in digital humanities has been started from sociology. And if I talk about data visualization, if I talk about quantification of data, and that sort of research paradigm shifts, it comes first from sociology in that respect to digital humanities. So to answer your question, digital humanities includes, it's an umbrella term that includes, humanities and social sciences disciplines. So as a sociologist, of course, you can use these digital tools and the product that would come out, for example, if you use a software to analyze your data or, do something else differently, that will also be a type of DH research that you are going to do. Is that was that your question? Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did, ma'am. So I'm glad to hear that social sciences even comes under digital humanities. We can have.
Yes, it is an umbrella term. Yeah, don't get kind of misguided by the humanities in the DH.
Exactly. So I was like, okay, like humanities is a different department, we'll have digital humanities, and social sciences will still be back without any digital applications.
No, and what you also mentioned, so we also have something called computational social science. But computational social science actually started with the computer scientists. And computer scientists kind of took up sociological questions, sociological issues, and that for them was a new territory, new terrain to explore. And that sort of gave rise to something called computational social science. But digital humanities, on the other hand, as I said, emerged from these departments of humanities, globally, and the trajectories were very different.
Okay. And does social data science comes under digital humanities?
Data science would come more under computational social science. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's all, ma'am. That was my doubt. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Is there any questions? Please.
That's a very important question, actually, what Divya asked.
So, anyone else would like to ask any questions?
You can, of course, send me emails with your questions later on if you are not, finding them now. Of course, feel free to email me.
So, if I may, it's a like simple query. Like you talked about the challenges of separation, like that DH challenges separation between technology and humanities. So, I would just like to know, like, that how does it challenges? Like, how do you say, like, what is your take on this? Like, how do you say? That how does it challenges the separation between technology and humanities? It's like it seems that it is totally different things. It seems, which is not actually. So how would you say? What would you say regarding this? I have taken that question first. I think there are many of them who are waiting to ask you questions. So sorry for letting them wait. Just
okay, I'll quickly answer your question. That's a excellent question. I will give you one very small example, and this is an example of a conceptual challenge in terms of teaching. So when we started, the digital humanities program, in the curriculum, the students have to credit some amount of courses in mathematics. And I was asked by the administration, why would a humanities student credit mathematics courses? So that's just a conceptual, challenge. The very idea that a humanities student should not, cannot, will not, credit a mathematics course, that gets challenged now.
Yes.
So that's kind of in terms of teaching learning, that's a conceptual challenge. In terms of research, of course, these boundaries are challenged every day. For example, if a computer scientist is trying to solve social science question along with a social scientist, so that itself is a boundary rupture. That itself is a kind of collaboration between disciplines. So that sort of challenging takes place. I will come back to you with another example. C.P. Snow. Going back to C.P. Snow's work, he mentions in his lecture that if you go to a public gathering and you ask two questions. One is, have you read the works of Shakespeare? That's one question. The other question is, do you know the second law of thermodynamics? Now, you will not get a single person who can answer yes to both, because it's either or. You either read Shakespeare or you know the law of thermodynamics. Yeah. So that is that's all. But now more and more people are talking the same sort of language in collaboration.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you for your answer.
What is the relation between digital humanities and literature? So literature, I'm not from a literature background, but my understanding is that DH gives a methodological lens to understand literature. For example, I can talk about MIT's Gender in Novels project. It's there on their website. I'll just type it out here. If you go to MIT's website and look up their DH project on gender in novels, you will see that they analyze these novels, whether it's Jane Austen or some not so prominent authors, and they understand in their texts how gender as a social construct has evolved over time, over the decades. And that they do through the application of DH tools and applications. If I may quickly share my screen, can I show them the website? Yeah. Okay. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. So this project, you asked about literature and DH. So this is a classic example of what DH can do to literature. This is a computational reading of gender in novels, where you can actually go here how they have actually developed the project, and they have actually used all of these tools, all of these methods to understand the evolution of gender in various novels between 1770 and 1922. So this is just a quick example to show the relationship.
Is there anyone? Is there anyone else? Any questions?
So of course, as I said, you can feel free to email me when you wish to.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think we can we can say that with this we have come to an end of our today's session. So thank you all for being with us. And I'd like to take the opportunity to put on record my sincere gratitude for our esteemed speaker, Dr. Mayurakshi Chaudhuri. Ma'am, thank you so much for sparing your valuable time and enlighten us with your wonderful presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and it was my pleasure.
Yes. Welcome, ma'am. I thank our dear students and my colleagues from TEZPUR University for attending the lecture, and thank you all. And with this, we have come to an end to our today's session. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.